So as Iran and Iranian proxies continue to gather on Israel's northern borders in spite of Russian promises, the question remains, does Putin care enough to rid Syria of Iran's influences? And if so, can he even do it? Well, joining us with more is founder and executive director of the Israel Institute for Strategic Studies, Dr. Martin Sherman. Dr. Sherman, as always, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me back.
All right, so let's start off right there with that big question, and we'll kind of go from there. Is it within Russian interests to expel Iranian forces from Syria?
Well, I certainly think that Russian interests would not like to see the area explode into instability. I think Russian interests they would like to keep everything from descending into large-scale violence, which may threaten the safety of their troops in the region. The question is, can Putin do it? I mean, if Putin unleashed the Russian army on the Iranians, I'm sure he could dislodge them. Of course. The question is, would he do it? And that means, what could he get in exchange for it? And basically, I think you have two sides of the equation. What influence can you exert, and how much influence do you have to exert? Because as the situation in Iran begins to deteriorate, and as you find an ongoing debilitation of the regime in Tehran, maybe it'll become easier and easier to dissuade them from their adventurism. There's a lot of unrest in Iran and a lot of opposition to the Iranian adventurism abroad. There have been protests about it. Well, on the other hand, is what can Putin get? I mean, if he could do some sort of trade-off with, say, the sanctions on the Ukraine, he may be able to exert pressure on Iran. I'm not sure that he would order a full-scale military action against Iran. But the question is, how much soft power.
So my question is kind of going the opposite direction. With Israel operating consistently in Syria, as we know that they do, often with the Air Force, they do targeted airstrikes against Iranian, Hezbollah, and Syrian militants. But they coordinate that with Russia. Now, so far, Netanyahu has been asking Russia to help and to stay out of the way. Well, what about taking that even one step further and saying, okay, listen, the war is over, Russia, get out, and we'll take it from here?
No, I don't think the Russians will get out because Netanyahu asks them to leave. I think they're there because of strategic interests. They want a military presence.
So there's no chance you don't think of Russia?
No, I don't think Russia leaving Syria will increase the chances of Iran leaving Syria. If you think that the Russians are an influence that could perhaps somehow work towards getting Iran to leave, then I'm not sure that Russia vacating Syria would work in that direction. The thing is, it's very difficult to really know what drives Russian foreign policy. In many ways, it's rivalry with the US. So the question is, if the Russians could use this Iranian card to get some concessions out of the US, as I said before, maybe on the Ukrainian issue, then maybe we could see some Russian pressure. Although again, I think the thing that will affect the Iranian presence most in Syria is the domestic situation in Iran.
I see. All right. Well, what do you think? Could you expand on that a little bit more? What within Iran do you think most affects Russia and Russian interests? Is it their oil? Is it the sanctions from abroad?
That's not what I'm talking about. The stamina of the regime in Tehran to keep up its adventurism, because the situation there is certainly degrading. There's problems in the marketplace. There's problems with the currency. There's a huge water crisis. There's a problem with the supply of medicines, etc., etc. So, in many ways, the Iranian people are seeing this adventurism abroad as coming at their own expense. So,
it's really we can kind of play it that way and say.
I think that the biggest factor will be the situation in a domestic situation in Iran, which would make it easier for Russians to exert influence to get them out.
We'll help you with that as long as you do what we want. All right. With that, thank you so much for coming in, Dr. Sherman.
Thank you.